Welcome back to another episode of the Clarity, Confidence, and Growth podcast. I am your host, Brandon Sanderson, and tonight's guest moves between worlds most people never connect with. Simone Matthews is a leadership and transition coach, freshly certified through the Jay Shetty Certification School, the same certification that I went through. But her background is much more wild than just that. Years as a researcher at the University of Sydney, working in ocean equity, sustainability, and Indigenous knowledge, plus degrees in linguistics, art history, counseling, and neuroscience. On top of all that, she's a writer publishing poetry and essays on Substack. Her coaching is all about helping leaders and people navigating major transitions, find clarity and purpose when life gets loud. Simone, so glad you're here with us today. Welcome, and feel free to share a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Brandon. That was such a lovely introduction. I'm very happy to be here because your podcasts are very interesting. I always find something new when I listen to them. So I'm very happy to be here with you in dialogue. And let's talk about things, right? About our coaching and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you here. And I think to start off, because, Simone's living a very interesting life right now. She's all the way across the world in Australia, and it's a very big time difference from a lot of people she works with in coaching and then a daily job on top of that. What does a typical week look like for you right now with all of that going on?
Yeah, well, that's the question. Like I during the Australia is on a different time frame. Like now here it is a Wednesday morning, 8:30. Over there it's still Tuesday, in the afternoon, evening. So I do most of my coaching with clients that are in Canada and North America. And I do that because by the end of the year in October I'm returning to my family in Toronto. But right now, and for a number of years now, I've been working at a Sydney University, and it is quite a split because I thought, well, if I start doing all the coaching here in Australia, I lose on developing my network here in Canada. And because, as we learn at the Jay Shetty School, time and energy and all that is not plenty of them. It's limited, and we really have to make the best with the way how we organize ourselves so that we can attend to the commitments that we are undertaking. So for instance, this week, what do I do in this week? Well, first of all, in the last 18 months, I had to change from on-campus teaching and on-campus research work to home. So 80% of my paid work at the university takes place at home. And that's because of my care responsibilities for my daughter, who has been very fit and very healthy orientated person all her life. However, after the second vaccination with COVID, she has developed this long COVID with cardiological and immunological problems, and she needs my care, on a daily basis. So I do that, and then I do my teaching classes by Zoom. Usually they are anywhere between 4 to 6 every day, and then I've got the research component that goes about the same, about 5-6 hours per day. In total, I have what is called a 1.5 load at the university. And then in addition to that, I've done this training, and now I work with the clients there in Canada. And basically, that's how it looks like, in addition to all these other normal things that we need to do, like cooking and still finding time to work out on the beach so that the body keeps alive, and can give us the energy that we need to do all these things.
Yeah, and I think that would be so tough having to have your phone that's going off as alarms that is like, okay, this is my daytime now of like work. And then it's like, okay, I got to jump on the laptop to see if I have a call
Yeah,
or something that I'm maybe going to need to catch on to for it's in a
yeah,
different time zone that's tonight. That would be a lot. And I applaud you so much for keeping up with that and keeping up with the different time zone changes and things like that, because it is a lot. You're a whole day ahead. You're pretty much 13
yeah.
hours ahead of us into a whole nother day. And that's just crazy. And but it's also so crazy to think of how much the internet and everything connects us now, because we can be on here, we can connect from that far away,
Yes.
and it makes
Yeah.
everyone be able to be so much more interconnected. What does a 1.5 load mean, Simone? Does that mean you're like almost like a person and a half workload? Or,
Yes, like
wow.
one load means like whatever you would say, like 7-8 hours per day 5 days per week, something like that, right? So my 1.5 means as if I would be one person and then another person with a part-time load.
Yeah, so you're like working
And
a full-time job plus a part-time job
yes,
almost
yeah,
in just the
yes,
school alone.
yeah. And I don't really complain because most of my life, wherever I've been in whatever country, I still wanted to do that. Once I got divorced, so my daughter was at that stage 5 years old, I really thought that this this is something I should and I could do so that I make sure that I meet all the needs, and to say. So I don't have a problem with that. Like I ask this question of many people. I ask, do you know how many oceans are between Canada and Australia?
Is there 2 or 3?
You see? So they first of all of them hesitate because it's big. It's just big as it is. Then they say like you, maybe two or three. But there is only one. It's only the
Okay.
Pacific Ocean. In when you think, because you always go the shortcut, you don't go all this other way. So but these are the things that as human minds, to say, we are constrained, when we see distance, when we see altitude, when you are in the plane, all these points of reference that are exceeding our bodily limits and mindset or mind frame. These are the things that make us to feel a little bit less or incapable. And then though all those things are actually now rebalanced by other human beings in your life. And then if you do have good relations with at work and also in your spare time in what you are doing, then those people are giving you this satisfaction and joy that you are useful. And there is nothing more for me that I found during years than to feel joyful at the end of my day, to say to myself, yes, I struggle with this, with that. Maybe I not even been paid in time for certain things, but I did some good things during the day. And that matters.
Yeah, and you
In the
take those
same,
things and that
you
helps you
know,
fill your cup.
Yes, yes. So that's the right phrase. Those are the things that are filling my cup, and that is all I want from a day, to happen.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that. I think of going from my retail career to now coaching and just getting into this rhythm of helping and supporting. And like yesterday's my social media day with my sister, and I had 3 calls, and I worked till 8 o'clock on Monday and Tuesdays, and they were back to back both days. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be so tired after today.
Yeah,
But it's been filling my cup just more and more going through these sessions that no, I want to keep going. I want to keep moving forward. And I think that's really about when you love what you do and you get joy out of it and you get that gratitude filled with your cup, it really does help you kind of go through those days and forget what the bad stuff was that was a struggle
yes,
and just
yes.
continue
And
through.
and
Yeah.
and and you are pretty much made of the same fabric because your attitude is that. Like always read what your comments or posts and all that, and every day for you it's like it's the best day ever. That's how is your attitude. And I think that is what most of the people that are coming into the coaching are missing. It's not that they are clients because they go through something unfixable, to say. Many people come, as you know, and they are stuck with some situation. And they come to coaching to get unstuck and to get that moving forward happening to them. But ultimately, it's an attitude thing. You need to have that attitude and then persevere. And maybe it sounds simple because in reality it's not simple. It's a lot for every of us to stretch ourselves and to do just one little more thing in that day. It's much easier to say, I'm not doing that. I'm already tired. I'll just put my feet up for 2 hours and do nothing. And there's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself more. Also, the attitude that you recognize that there is a ceiling and you cannot do it more is not the reality. It is to do with this thing that maybe your work that day didn't come through as you wanted, that maybe your attitude was already not the right attitude and you or simple you weren't able to achieve those things in relationship with the others as you were
Or your
planning.
energy is just lower capacity those days.
Yeah, yeah. So we learn a lot from our clients, Brendan, right? So it's interesting how they need our help and they're looking for us. But then we, in the process of guiding them and strategizing how they are going to accomplish different things and their goals, we learn a lot from them too, and I think that that sort of changed with me, because I did in the last 3 4 years I also did counseling and I had counseling clients, but for me coaching was a new perspective on life. It wasn't just a training and working with people and serving them, but it has become more and more like, how do I see things differently now, and in everything that I do, including even if I just walk on the street, go to the shops, and I need to meet with a neighbor or a friend, and they start talking, I talk already from that frame and attitude that the coaching is sort of making you do and be, where you keep in check your emotions and you approach that relationship with a kind of a quietness and tactfulness that comes from the coaching.
With coaching, we have all learned how to have that energy, working on figuring out our boundaries. We've figured out that we can get that one more thing done because we've got that energy that fills our cups. In some of your clients that you've worked with, either with counseling or coaching, what's a pattern you keep seeing in clients who struggle to get back to themselves and struggle to kind of get back into that energy of, I can move forward, I can do this?
Yes, and most of the clients that I see, I would call that they are people under pressure. That if it wouldn't be for the pressure or stress or all these kind of related things, if it wouldn't be the pressure, honestly, they could sort themselves out. But because life as it is, whether it is work related or family events related, it comes with a pressure, and at some stage you cannot take that pressure, and pressure slides into a kind of stress and anger and all this negativity, and then it sort of bundles up, and everything that happens around you doesn't really make sense, and then the body reacts to all this disorder. And I would say that that is the reason why everybody, including the coaches, they do need coaches. A coach needs a good coach.
When I finished graduating, my biggest thing I've tell now any coaches graduating, and I think I told you this when I messaged you, is that, supervision and having a coach and having somebody you can talk to as a coach is so important. And it's so important to have that community, because if you don't, you're just in yourself trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, we realize that we do need supervision, we do need mentorship, because that is not just that it's improving the way how you coach, it makes you reflect as you go on how you are as a human being, not just as a coach. And that is the thing that you need in order to keep a kind of a level of coaching. It's almost like with the gym and the warming up. If you don't warm up for 30 minutes and you don't have a routine program with physical exercise, then you won't get there. Or like for every, let's say, 3 days that you didn't attend your gym, or even if you are at home, you are drawn back. The same here. Once you do not have a relationship with a supervisor or a mentor, you think that you are okay, but then you discover in session with clients that you are actually not enough okay, because you compare with your okay when you are actually providing that help and service to the client, and they are coming out of the session like, not just like, I'm not just saying aha moments, but overall you can see the glow, that they are happy, that they are heading in the right direction. And for that, it's not enough just that, you do some reading 2 3 minutes and now you get into the session. And I think that it will be continuously necessary.
Yeah,
We,
agree. Simone, I'd like to go into a chapter in your life where you feel like you grew the most, where you really grew into the Simone you kind of are today. When was that for you, and what made that really possible?
well, there are many answers here, whether I refer to growing as a human being, as a child, teenager, or to the actual learning and whatever, degrees I have. But I would say let me give you two examples, maybe, so that I don't focus on just one. My parents, they were good parents in the meaning that other than loving us, I would choose probably the moment when I had to transition between the high school and the university. So you have admission exams. So you don't just get in a university over there in Eastern Europe and generally in Europe with money. You just pay your way and you become a college or a university student. But you need to pass, at least 3, 4 daily exams, each of them like both verbal and written, 3 hours. So you do, and then you compete. Like most of the fields, they will be like 2, 3 people per. So the places would be capped. So you have to fight for that. It's true, it's not as competitive as in India or other countries where the competition is extremely high. When my students from India, for instance, are telling me what they have to go through in order to get to be students, at University of Sydney, it's quite amazing, So I don't know, not just knowledgeable, they know how to use the knowledge. So yeah, and the other example of growth for me would be from work. And I tried, depending on where I lived, I tried to do another master or a professional master or some other degree so that it does assure me that I play by the rules in that country and I can actually stay with the university, with the culture, with the teaching, whatever the position was offered. And that was an effort because other people would have just stayed in one place and then grew up there and become tenure or more permanent academics or teachers, or then all this skill, lecturer, associate professor. And but my life was in such a way that I didn't really choose to travel so much, but it happened. And then I adjusted with whatever I thought that I can adjust. At some stage, I needed extra money. I, I was only, at that stage, I was only on zero point 0.5, just on a part time casual academic with the university. And I was fascinated by Montessori school. And I thought, I just love the philosophy. I love the fact that the teachers in Montessori, they are pretty much similar with the Jay Shetty coaching because they are not insisting on quantitative assessment of the students. It's more like they are observing. They are observing what are the talents and inclinations of different students, and then they build from there. So I love that. And I thought, I am going to do that. And I did that. And once I did that, I started working as a Montessori school in primary. So what I'm trying to say here, it's something that trains you to be humble, trains you to understand that teaching at the university is not a prize, that there are other things out there that are as big achievements to say, like for me working in primary school within a Montessori school, it was amazing. It was very challenging because you have to adapt. You don't have students anymore in front of you. You have this age where they are coming out of preschool, they are starting the first grades, and they are different people. They are not little people, they are different people. And you have to find what makes them learn better or be more curious about things. And then also to apply those teachings from the Montessori qualifications, because that is the environment. So that was a quite a challenging situation. And also, again, living between different worlds, you have a number of hours per day where you teach with students that they want after graduation to pursue a master. And then here you have the youngest school attendees,
Right.
at the primary school, we don't look at them as 30 in a class or 25. We look at them as individuals. You basically not even have too many classes as collectives. You have little classes and little groups. You could almost say that the Montessori in primary school, now that it just dawned on me. I never made that comparison from a pedagogical point of view in my head. Those small groups where you observe the primary school students are almost equivalent with those special groups of graduates that do this honors or masters, where
Yeah.
you only have like five, seven in a group, you know?
It's like it's your calling. And I
Yeah,
think if
yeah,
you look at it that way too, you have the world. You like doing the multiple worlds. You like to always have multiple things going on. And I think you're almost kind of coming back to full circle of coaching is very much a lot of teaching. You're teaching people what's within to bring it out while you're teaching. And I think, I know you just made me have an aha moment of when I was growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. And I obviously had a very change in pace of heart when I was in high school. And then I became a retail leader for over a decade. And teaching kind of just became a thing that I knew I just I didn't have the grades when I was in high school, so to achieve it would have been difficult. And then I see this coaching and I'm like, it's a lot of teaching. It's a lot of still growing people. So it's almost like your passions are all coming back into one, into teaching. And I think it's beautiful how much travel and how much experience it's given you by going through all of these different work journeys
yes,
that you
because
have.
yes, you are right, because it's you learn to connect with different people. Even if everybody speaks English in US, Canada, Australia, UK, and whatnot, the culture is different, the mentality is different, and then individual to individual is different again. And you learn a lot from these differences. Like I do not know anyone that has learned from uniformity. Any kind of a learning comes from variety. And when it comes to my own research, that's why I choose biodiversity and marine biodiversity, because I really believe that if there is a message in this life or a essence of this life, it sits with that variety. The mystery, the answers, whether it's about human society or the natural out there, or even the fact that we've created this too big divide between nature and human society, that can only be solved, or resolved with this attitude that you belong to the difference. Anything that is uniformity is plastic, is artificial, is not living tissue.
When you get down to the uniqueness of everyone, that's where you actually learn from them. And that's how we learn as individuals. And I think of that back to coaching, like you dig deep, and that's where you learn the uniqueness of somebody. That's where we really shine. If you just keep that layer as always just I'm going to be like everyone else. Yeah, you are. You're just plastic. There's no shine to you.
Exactly, like you do need layers of differences so that you become more unique, if we can say that grammatically. Now, I do want to come back to coaching because you said something very beautiful there about you wanting to be a teacher and then now doing this coaching, and you do have that vocation. But I would say that the coaching is the Oscar of the teachings. Why do I say that coaching is like the Oscar of every level of teaching? Because coaching makes miracles in a very short time, and it does it not from you to the client, but it's this co-presence and co-creation that happens in the session. The same client in a different hour of coaching in a different session with the same coach will be a different person. You need to seize the moment and get attuned to the client in that particular moment of that session, because maybe next moment or the next session, he doesn't have that kind of a willingness to share the truth in himself. And that happens because as human beings, we cannot just sit with ourselves with our bigger problems. We need somebody that actually, through the ethical frame, like the coaching is, to listen to us fully and deeply. And by listening to us, to guide us with some questions that make us more aware that this is not impossible to sort out, that the solutions are there, are handy, and we are going to move forward. And whatever pressure we have or what not, it can be done if you are in this kind of a dyadic relationship in a coaching where you co-create the situation. If both of the people in the coaching, client and coach, are honest and share the things truthfully, they reach to something that I'm not saying that teaching cannot do, but it just cannot do it in this way, because teaching is, as you know, more of imparting knowledge, that knowledge will be applied. Now, it does have the creative component where you can do creative teaching and then you have creative learning. The student will assimilate the knowledge in a creative way. but nothing it is so subtle and clear as in coaching, where both as coach and client, you come together and you build now this presence where you are perfectly attuned. Of course, I'm talking about those moments where you get there, and you do get there with any client if you are only have to be honest, and you only have to deeply listen to their own honesty. Whether it's the first session or the second, depends on the difficulty of the problem. But you get there because there is a willingness, there is a willingness to share something that you don't share with your friend, you don't share with your family or your partner, but you do share with your coach.
I think that's why it's hard to get that out of a teaching kind of environment.
You've got the respect for the boundaries of the people in the session and outside of the sessions, because we do follow up with clients between the sessions. That is something that, again, is one of the best kept secrets, because people think coaching only happens in the sessions, like with the counseling or the psychologist session. But actually, we do a lot of work in between sessions with our clients. So, and that's why our results show quicker, to say, in a way, because I think that overall our work is more intensive, like even in those situations when they need a psychologist because they are diagnosed with some, depression or anxiety, we can do that work together and offer them something quicker than a counselor or a psychologist. I wouldn't call it a quick fix. I would say that the work is very deep and intensive. I'm not saying that it's going to fix the depression or the anxiety. It's not what we are doing, but it will fix something as a goal, as a temporary goal, or a target that they always wanted to achieve, that because of their condition, like, anxiety or depression, as an example, they can't really see the way how they can move forward,
If you get somebody into that mindset, you can then maybe have them be more open to therapy. Maybe they're not open to therapy. Maybe they're not open to these things yet. And you
Yes,
can get them to that point, and maybe that coaching is that first step.
absolutely. That is a good point, because some people are quite intimidated to book sessions with psychologists or counselors, but they are less intimidated with coaching, and they come into the coaching, and then they realize, okay, so this is going on. So I could get these kind of benefits from the coaching, but then I get a little bit more courage, and I'm going to face my diagnostic with a real psychologist and see. So
And it could be that mindset shift that somebody really needs. And I think that's what kind of is important and is kind of nice. You can be that kind of bridge to somebody who maybe doesn't think they could ever speak to a therapist, and then
yeah,
they get to that point. What's something that you wish more people understood about what coaches actually do?
well, I would like to see this accreditation becoming mandatory, because that would be
Me too.
an external thing where coaching practitioners, because I think that we are as professional practitioners as anybody else in this kind of service. And once accreditation is mandatory, and as you well underlined, that means that you don't get accreditation for life. You get it for 3 years. And every 3 years, you have to prove that you do take care of your professional or continuous development as a coach. And that external respect would give the coaching a position that it deserves in society, Like right now, many people are still asking, what is that? Are you going to coach me to do what? To play football, or to do that, or to write a novel? And it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about working at deeper level of human emotions, human conflict, under pressure situations. So working actually with your inner core. I wouldn't call it immediately spiritual or uh, or metacognition or all that. I think that is present whether we call it or not. So any kind of a coaching would basically be still a form of spiritual coaching, or would imply the spiritual level, because that's how we are as people. When we communicate, we do not communicate just with one dimension. We these multidimensional characteristics of a human being, they are there every moment of your existence. It's not that you just take it out a section and say, I'm not spiritual right now. I'm just going to be matter of fact, or, so they are all very well orchestrated together in the way how we present ourselves in our life and we believe. And I think that I would like to see this more respect and more confidence in the coaching profession and a recognition that comes with that. And then and maybe these are external things, but I think that they matter. And then the thing that I would like to see is that people do believe, like in the Jay Shetty mission that I personally believe a lot, that everybody should have their coach. Because in biblical terms, they say, love your neighbor. For me, it wasn't necessarily a Christianism kind of a thing. It was more a matter of fact reality check. Like in my grandmother's years, neighbors were even more important than family. You would love your neighbor because she, he, they were your neighbors, and society was much closer to say, the relationships of individuals, they were natural close, and people were just helping each other as a community, and that love of the neighbor was important. Now the neighbor concept has disappeared out of the window. So I think that having a coach and a coach relationship for each of the people in this world, to say, including the coaches, Jay Shetty movement, promotes and stands for, I think it would be ideal because people have to go back to some kind of a social cohesion where they are much more closer to each other. And even if that is done now by screens, not the screens are not a problem. Like I associate this with another thing. When people say, yes, but there will be no coaches needed anymore because we are going to have AI coaches. And I say, I don't think so, because
Lose the human touch from that.
AI is going to give you advice and suggestions, and I don't know what, but they're not going to stay. They are not going to give you a hug or a shoulder, or it's not even about that. They are not going to be soul to soul present because they do not have a soul. They might have in the future some kind of a shape that looks like a human. They will become maybe wiser enough or even mimicking more emotional output, but what they do not have is the silence. Like when you sit with another human being and the coach in this situation in the same room, even if there is complete deep silence, there is a presence there that in itself is sorting things out. Now, you cannot have that. You cannot have the, let's call it therapeutic effects of silence from an AI. And that's the threshold for me, They can offer so many other things, but not that presence and not that silence and that kind of a communion, that tacit communion between two human beings that 1 + 1 there doesn't add up is much bigger. Co-presence and co-created relationship.
I think the human connection is always going to be, and I think that's
Absolutely. Yeah.
the part
Yeah.
that, like, that's never going to go away. We can add AI as much as we need, but we're always going to need that human support, and we're always going to need to have,
Also, Brandon, I think that coaching has got a niche there too with AI. Because
for
unfortunately,
sure.
with AI, we have teenagers, as you were saying, and next year we are going to have these little AI things created for the 4 or 5 years old that they are going to replace all their iPads and other games that they are playing AI. And that is a problem because AI not only that doesn't yet have that kind of an enhancement to, let's say, more perfectly imitate the way of how a human dialogue should go. And then at that fragile age, which is the assimilation and development age, they are going to imitate this, new generation. They're going to imitate in their own speech and style of approaching communication as if they would talk AI. Because it's one thing for a 20-year-old to decide or 14 years old to decide, I'm going to use the AI for this, or I even can use the AI as a friend, because, there are people out there that they want friends and even partners. Japan has got this even laws that you can get married with an AI or something, So that's another extreme to say, but what I'm saying is that whoever is a user of AI needs to be prepared and needs to have some basic training because,
I think schools really need to start bringing it into teaching for
yeah,
the kids that are coming up. Yeah. So,
yeah,
Simone, with that, I
absolutely.
want to go into our rapid fire questions. First, I want to say thank you so much, Simone, for being here with me today. It's been such a pleasure. I think we've captured so much on where coaching's going, what your upbringing was, and how you've became to where you are, and all your traveling, and how much that's given you the wealth of knowledge that you have. And with that being said, I know you're a big reader. What's one book, resource, or tool you'd recommend for anyone starting their journey within coaching or any new journey they're starting?
Can I recommend two?
Yeah, of course.
One it is a shorter one, and one it's sort of a heavier, or let's say more difficult reading. First of all, nobody needs to actually read the book if they are already unused to hold the book in their hands. So they can go to Audible, and most of the very good books are already on Audible. And so
I love audiobooks.
yeah, and it's also less time consuming. You can listen to a book while you are doing other things, washing your car or gardening or whatnot. The first one is by Dr. Wayne Dyer. So Wayne Dyer was, the motivational coach celebrity in a way. He was known in opera shows in many, many ways. He's got a number of amazing books. Most of the people now they are familiar with Let Them, Mel Robbins' book, but there is another book that was published some years ago. It's called Letting It Go. So it's a kind of a method. The author, Hawkins, he was also a professor in psychology and psychiatry, and he wrote this book, Letting It Go, The Art of Surrender, of how you have to manage your emotions and the balance that the emotions imply in any of the situations that you are, whether you are under pressure, whether you transition to another job, or you get married, for instance, or you get divorced. So it's a book that is thicker, and Audible again requires more time to listen, but you actually have both practical and theoretical guidance of how to actually do things so that you manage all these emotions and the universe that comes with that and conflict and everything in the right way, or to make it in your favor, because more and more I hear from my clients, that they another one that got divorced, another one that they just broke with their broke up. That is a book that even if you don't go to any counseling or any coaching, if you just start reading it or listening on Audible, it gives you the necessary quietness to realize that they are not guilty, your partner, your ex-partners, your ex-husbands or ex-wives or whoever. It is you that you have built this resistance. That's what Hawkins is calling it. Like you build a resistance to the fact that you don't want to let this go, that you want to win this match or this thing where you prove them wrong, to the exes. And that is what holds you there. You cannot let it go. It holds you in that kind of a conflictual relationship. Your ex-husband or ex-husband, already maybe they have a new relationship, they're not even thinking about you at all, but you are suffering because you took the decision that you want to be stuck there with the memories and all these things that are negative in your universe, and they keep you stuck there. And then he says, you have to gently let it go. And the surrender is in that meaning that you have to surrender to get rid of all this negativity that you choose for yourself to be stuck into, And then he's got a variety of situations, scenarios, and how to actually proceed with that. So that's why I would have choose these two books,
I would agree with the letting it go book. I read Codependent No More and then Letting It Go
Oh,
after I went
yeah,
through a massive breakup. Actually, the guy that I bought this house with back in 2018, we separated in the beginning of 2020. I hit the pandemic, and both of those books were very helpful. I haven't read the book by Wayne Dyer, but Letting It Go is very helpful for any type of transition like that. So thank you, Shimon.
amazing. I'm very grateful to you for this opportunity to talk to you, because you always bring out important issues, like they are real practical issues that everyone goes through. And I hope that it will be helpful to anybody that is going to listen this.
And thank you so much, Simone, for that. I want to be able to bring clarity, confidence, and growth and just the real issues that really matter to people. I think we forget about those sometimes. And, it's what gives us that clarity, that confidence to continue to grow. And I think, growing never stops. So the last kind of questions I had for you is just where can people find you and connect with you to keep connecting with you further? And any final thoughts or words of encouragement you have for our listener?
Well, my I do have a final word, and that is a word that was suggested to me by one of the best coaches that I've met in my coaching and training practice. So his name is Orlando Ribuman. He's a experienced coach and of course graduate and certified all that. And the word that really meant and means a lot for me in the coaching is discernment. Like when you take a decision, is not like taking a decision in anything else. When you take a decision about your own life, how you are going to resolve this transition that you go through, or the pressure that you go through, you need to do it with discernment. That means that yes, clarity, yes, all these things, but your decisions are to be made from a place where you are neutral. You're not angry with yourself. You are not too happy with yourself. None of these things, they might sound like kind of a Buddhist values, but they are actually the good values that any human would have, because then you can see better what is best for me at that moment in time so that I can go forward. Because many of these crossroads are taking us backwards if the decisions are made with the wrong mentality, to say, or in the wrong state of mind. So discernment, that's my word. And where do they find me? Well, they find me probably on LinkedIn, because on LinkedIn more recently I did put the links to my own coaching website, and then links to the Jay Shetty coaching directory where I've got a profile. So, and my LinkedIn is both professional, for my research and teaching job. So they do find me there anytime, but they do need to put my whole name to find me. So that comes up in Google immediately. So it's Georgette Simone Matthews. They can contact me, and I'm very happy to help anytime.
I'll put that in the show notes so everyone has it. Simone has a Substack where she posts readings and writes inside the
Yeah,
Substack. And I think, Simone, I really liked how you brought up discernment, because I think even too, when you do have that discernment and you sometimes make those choices, sometimes that is going to be a road of maybe things going backwards for a little bit because you made that choice to leave that job, or you made that choice to leave something that wasn't right for you anymore. And yeah, that means like a financial setback or something like that. But that was your discernment to know that you need more and you need to go in a different direction. And then that comes back to
yes.
you. So I think, discernment can work both ways. It can work in you doing that thing in that right mindset, and then you go back a bit, but then to get where you want to go. And I think that's beautiful.
Exactly. That's absolutely amazing how you described it, because discernment does give you that kind of a latitude and reassessment steps. It's not like decision. Decision is just one off, like as if it is so cut perfectly that you cannot really redo it or undo it. It's decision. But discernment is something that, as you say, it's itself reflecting of a work in progress. You are allowed to do this 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, or whatever the rhythm to which you belong with your movement, right? So I appreciate you. That's all I
Yeah,
can
thank
say.
you so much. I think that's
Very
so
much.
beautiful that we came to that. I think we're all a work in progress. And thank you so much, Simone, for being here with us tonight. It was such a pleasure. And I can't
Thank you,
wait to
Brandon.
connect again
Thank
with
you,
you soon.
Brandon. And all the best for your coaching. Thanks a lot.